Welcome everybody to the You vs. Who podcast, the pop culture debate show where we talk about all things nerdy, all things geeky, and quite simply, all things. I'm your host, Steven. I go by Sven.
I'm Benji the Kiwi.
Bman here.
I'm Eric the Pretty One. How you doing?
And I'm Sarah.
And we are not coordinated because we are first-time content creators, guys. So this is the first time we do anything like this. We're not experts or anything like that, so full disclosure. Bear with us as we learn on this journey and we continue to grow. So thank you for tuning in on our first episode. And let's kick back and vibe with us while we talk about what it means to be nerdy and geeky. So this first episode is called Nerds vs. Geeks, guys. You guys have any input or know what it means to be a nerd and or geek?
I thought I did.
You thought you did?
Until we were discussing it earlier, right before we recorded, and now I have no idea.
So what do you think it means to be a nerd?
Nerd is to have some really, like an over interest in something like specific, like a show or a specific type of movie or book series or something like that.
I thought that was a geek.
Right
That's
into
what
it. I always thought that was a nerd.
I
See, it's conflicting opinions
or
already.
geeking out about something.
Yeah, that's how I see a geek as well. Like, they're just super laser focused on one particular thing, while nerds are just kind of appreciative of, like, say, a specific genre or something like that.
I always thought of a nerd more as an academic sort because
That too.
the high school I went to was considered a nerd school.
A nerd.
See, that's what I consider a geek.
Yeah.
Oh,
The academic type over the academic.
Yeah.
So.
Do you think it's like a different and cultural aspect as well? Because you're from... Where are you from?
New Zealand.
You're
Hence,
from New Zealand?
being a Kiwi.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
You guys like have a different way, like different slang when you call someone a nerd or a geek. Does it mean
I
something?
don't believe so. I think it's probably the same.
Oh, the same.
Never looked it up when I was there or when I've been here, so...
Yeah, I was just bullied in both terms, just
Right?
interchangeably.
I was gonna say, in the US, on like TV, it's like, the bullies are always like, hey nerd, I'm going after them. I never see them. Do they say hey geek
Hey,
as well?
geek.
Hey, geek. Alright.
Yeah.
Do they ever use those interchangeably
Actually-
when they're attacking someone?
Yeah, it's more like, hey nerd, I'm gonna drop your books and beat you up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Do you
true.
think like
That's
that
why.
Breakfast Club style, like a nerd, you know, like that person with the glasses that's super
True.
socially awkward.
You know what, the
you know?
nerd could also be like the look.
The look,
Oh, you look like a nerd. But the geek is like the interest.
Mm-hmm.
like
Well,
what
I'm
you're,
super into one thing, so I'm like a geek about that thing.
for sure.
The nerd is like the pocket protector and suspenders tape on the glasses.
I mean, yeah, I could see that. But what about for a geek? Like, what do you guys? How would you describe a geek? Like, who's a geek in your life?
I think I'm a geek.
You think you're a geek?
Because of my definition, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what makes you? Like, what are you a geek? What geeks you out? Like, what makes you geek out?
Like, I'm really into physics and theoretical physics.
Theoretical
I
physics.
just... Yeah, see, I would
See.
consider that a geek.
I would
You're an
consider that a
academic
nerd.
nerd.
If someone that's
Okay.
like super into like an academic subject,
Okay.
maybe.
It's,
I think that
interesting.
kind of falls under the category of a nerd.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah, based on, like, I'm a geek about the Masked Singer, Korean Masked Singer,
You gotta
because
specify.
I'm just super into that. That's like one interest, super into. Based on my definition of geek,
Right.
but I'm also a geek about other things.
like what?
What other things am I interested in? Like other shows.
I think it's mainly Masked Singer, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty
I
much
think,
Masked
I
Singer.
think you're pretty much only into the Masked Singer. That's all you talk about.
Also a
Yeah.
geek about movies. There we go.
A movie geek, yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
So that's where I feel like the definition for both words, right? Like, usually when someone's into a subject or in a hobby, usually you call them that thing. So like, someone's into comic book, you call them a comic geek,
Mhm.
or someone's into video games, like a gamer geek, a car geek, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think with video games, just gamers now is kind of a blanket term.
Yeah. So I feel like a lot of geekdoms, if you will, are like subject to new nicknames, like gearhead for cars, or
True.
I've heard them.
gamers.
I've heard the term, like, I'm a car nerd. People say that.
I'm a car nerd.
I'm a car nerd, or I'm a this
Maybe
nerd,
your
or I'm a
definition
that
of nerds
nerd.
and geeks are
It's
different.
probably completely switched. I
Huh.
mean, I am from the other side of the earth, so
I mean, it's
it
English, but
explains
like,
some things.
we Americanized a lot of.
True. Yeah.
I mean, you do come from our motherland.
Yeah.
Like, you guys talk in our motherland language.
much.
I have no idea if it's accurate or not. But
It's not.
that's the card I'm playing, so.
Do you feel like your accent comes out more when you talk, like when you show like different emotions, like when you're angry?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
When you geek out.
When you geek out, do you feel like it comes out when you geek out?
Yes, definitely. When I'm really passionate about something,
For
I
sure.
come out stronger.
What about you, Eric? What do you geek out about? Besides the Max Singer,
Other than
obviously.
Movies, right? Horror movies specifically.
What's your favorite horror movie?
The Conjuring, because it was so well done compared to other horror movies.
Yeah. Who directed that movie?
James Wan.
James.
He's the most perfect horror director.
Ooh.
James
Agreed.
Bond, did you say?
James Bond.
James
Wan.
James Bond, not
Yes,
Yes,
W.A.N.
I'm 007, and I hereby direct this film.
Okay.
I misheard that.
I don't even know. That's my worst 007 impersonation.
Probably the James Bond of horror movie.
Ah,
Probably.
Directing, I'm guessing. Yeah.
Yeah.
very good.
What other
He's so
things
good.
has he made?
The Conjuring 1, right? And then The Conjuring 2.
Ooh, surprise.
And later this year, The Conjuring 3.
Yo,
Yeah.
what?
I know, right? These are like heavy hitters. But then he was involved in like Insidious.
Insidious,
Annabelle.
Annabelle. He produced a lot of things, not as well as didn't direct everything, but
Like producer. I think.
yeah, he has his hand in a lot of things.
What about you, Sarah? What do you geek out
What
about?
do I geek out about?
Or do you think you're more of a nerd? Like, what do you feel?
It depends. As far as nerd, I'm definitely a history nerd and a film nerd. Because I went to film school and I am very close to having a minor in history, but decided I did not want to spend the extra money on it.
It's all about that moolah.
Yes.
baby.
But no, as far as geek, a lot of my geek stuff moves over into my nerd stuff because I'm also like a movie geek. Like, you can ask me anything about how they made like the Lord of the Rings movies, and I probably know it.
Yeah.
So
those are like very interesting films.
it's a lot of interlaying. Like, I really like the history of like special effects, and a lot of my stuff really integrates like history and film, and then the things that I enjoy reading and watching they just kind of all mesh. So it just depends on the day.
Where was Lord of the Rings filmed?
It's in New Zealand.
You're welcome.
New
Benji.
Zealand.
You're welcome.
Kiwi.
Yeah.
What would you say is like your favorite special effect?
Ooh, I am really big fan of practical effects, so not CGI. So actual prosthetics. That was my problem with The Hobbit. Did not have enough prosthetics like Lord of the Rings, and like force perspective, things that you can actually, like the original Star Wars trilogy, like actually physically, blowing things up and not just using computers.
Not using
Right.
like effects and
Yeah.
computer effects. I mean, like, because Star Wars, they had like one of those things where they film like models or something,
Mhm.
and it like zoomed in so it looked like it was
Yes.
far away or something.
As
like
I feel like, there's so much passion in either one. Like, I had one of my professors actually worked in like the CGI department for like Weta workshops,
Yeah.
and there's so much passion in both like areas of special effects. But for me, I don't know. I just like the practical effects better. There seems to be more like old school movie magic.
Did you see the behind the scenes of Mandalorian and how they filmed it?
Yes.
Those are more of your effects, right?
Yes.
The
The
Mandalorian
$1 million
is like-
little baby Yoda puppet is more of
Baby
my
Yoda,
special
guys.
effects.
Baby
A lot of
Yoda.
moolah.
Yes.
You can't go anywhere without mentioning Baby Yoda.
Or excuse me, the child.
The
The
child.
child. The child.
Officially.
Can he be called the kid, or could there be another Yoda race? And like,
Kid.
like, what is
I
it?
feel like that would be like, what? Pot goat.
The kid. What is that like? So is the kid supposed to, or the child? I'm sorry, the child. Is he supposed to be like the new Yoda, or is there like more of that race, or what's going on?
I
there? 'Cause don't
think
know if
we'll
I've
learn
seen-
that in season 2.
I hope so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What's- I know someone who's a super Star Wars buff or geek.
A Star
Right.
Wars geek.
Buff.
Huge
A
Star Wars
buff?
geek.
That's
Could be-
another synonym.
Yeah,
Right.
it could be a cinnamon.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Cinnamon,
which one.
yeah.
Cinnamon.
Cinnamon.
He probably knows, right? I think I was asking him about Yoda and that little race, and I think Yoda was like the last of his kind. But like when it was set, I asked him, was the child, could he be Yoda's child? Like, I don't think so.
You don't think it could be Yoda's
No,
like,
because
offspring?
I don't think the
Jedi
timing
don't
was right.
usually don't have kids. Anakin was an exception.
But that's
Oh, true.
see, there you go.
Right,
I was gonna
right.
say Anakin though. Yeah,
Yeah.
Luke
Who's that?
and what's her name? Wow, now I feel
Padme?
Padme?
That-
Yeah.
Oopsie.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
and I've played like
Big fan.
different
Big-
Star Wars
I mean, I'm not a
games.
huge Star Wars fan. Just full disclosure. I mean, I've watched every movie at least once. You know, probably like the offshoot like Han Solo movie, but
Right.
or Rogue One. But I'm not like I've never watched the cartoons. What's it called?
Yeah,
Animated.
Rebels and Clone Wars.
The Clone
Right.
Wars. Yeah, I never watched
Clone Wars
those.
is good.
I hear really good things about it, but it's just no
I've
time.
never watched the Clone Wars, but I played Star Wars: The Old Republic, and there was more of like the Yoda kind of alien, so that's supposed to take place like way before.
Yeah, it's like the
The
Old
prequels.
Republic era or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Night of the Old Republic.
No,
Oh,
Star Wars: The Old Republic. It's the online game.
the online. I played Knights of the Old Republic, and that game was really good. They just released it on, well, not just released, but it was on Google Play Store, and you could get it for like $1 if you sign up for the Google Pass.
Okay.
So you could like, yeah, and it's fully functional. Like it works really great on your phone too.
This is not an ad.
This is not an ad.
No.
We'll
We're
have an
talking
ad
about-
later.
So,
No,
so
I'm
what
just kidding.
definitions do you have in your research?
Well,
for,
Like, I want to
Give
see
us-
what Bman over here has to say. Do you feel like you're a nerd or a geek? Or,
I think I'm a pretty big geek, at least when it comes to video games. I don't really nerd out about a whole lot of things. I just kind of like my JRPGs and kind of stick to that.
and what does actually before we even go too deep into that, what's Bman even stand for?
So Bman, the full name is Bman Rock 3. Long story short, it's my RuneScape username from way back in the day when I played old school RuneScape.
Yeah.
What?
Oh my
Yeah.
god. Jeez.
Yeah, that was my username back then. I just kind of always used it, and it's just kind of stuck. So I like it.
Yeah, I feel like everyone played RuneScape at least
Oh,
once.
it's such a good game.
The middle school.
Middle
The
school.
game to play in middle school.
Yeah, I put in so many hours into RuneScape.
I
Like,
had like RuneScape sleepovers.
Yeah, we got my whole neighborhood, like all the kids my age, to play RuneScape, so we could all like do the stuff together.
yeah, because it was impossible going on to what is it, the wilderness?
Yeah.
Like not get killed by someone and
Right.
then
You
do
just
all
get
your
messed
stuff.
up all the time.
I think I never went up there. I was too scared.
I
I went up there once and I died and I got so pissed I never went there again.
That's understandable.
Yeah, no,
I
that's
just
true.
want to play in peace.
So a lot of video games, huh?
Yeah, I just like playing my role-playing games, my Japanese role-playing games.
Dude,
They're all pretty fun.
JRPGs, that's where I'm at.
Bruh.
Too. What's your favorite one right now?
My current favorite RPG, or JRPG I should say, is Persona 5 the Royal Edition. I think it's a very phenomenal game. I've sunk far too much time to that. 150 hours.
Do you know
Worth
the-
it though.
You know those like, kind of like the love story Japanese type games, like the anime style like games. 'Cause I have one that's like about Colonel Sanders.
What?
I think I've heard.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it's called.
Yeah.
I think I remember that though.
It's like something. It's like I love you, Colonel Sanders, or something like that.
Yeah, they did another one
like,
with like
KFC
and-
Man, right? That's who we're talking about?
Yeah,
Oh, God.
like legit. Yeah, there you go. I love you,
I remember
Colonel
seeing
Sanders.
Love you, Colonel
What
Sanders.
we're looking at right now is a very hot.
Colonel
Young
Sanders.
It's
I
very-
will not lie. He's
Colonel
looking
Sanders.
too handsome.
He
He's
is
got
Riding
that
the horse
staff.
down there.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
pretty hot. Some good stuff
down
going
here in the.
I like how the anime chick on the left, she's like,
There
"Hell
it
yeah,
goes.
I'm a killer."
Oh my god.
Oh, Colonel
Yes.
Sanders
This-
mounted on the horse.
This gives me very hot full
He's
boyfriend
arriving
vibes.
at
You know what that
school.
is.
Oh my gosh.
He's arriving
Man,
at school.
oh man.
No, this,
If
this
ever I
calls
was a
for,
geek about something, oof.
Yeah, this is
Colonel
what I'm about now.
Sanders,
Give me
KFC.
these weird visual
No.
novels. I'm all about it.
I'll leave these to you guys, I think.
I mean, this is pretty great, honestly.
I did
That-
not even know something like that existed.
That when now you know, and you're welcome.
Yeah, thanks for sharing.
That's exactly when you said JRPG. That's what first name popped. up.
Just anime Colonel Sanders.
Just
That's what I
anime
think too.
Colonel. I mean, that's the first thing I could think of. honestly. What if they did like an anime game where it's like all the mascots for every fast food restaurant, like so
Oh
Wendy's,
no.
Ronald McDonald, Colonel Sanders.
I mean, that's so possible right now because like the Wendy's Twitter handle is basically that.
yeah,
Right,
Wendy's
right.
goes hard. She is savage. Like her little red pigtails, man. Like
Yeah.
you
Right.
can't mess with those.
That was, yeah.
I mean, for me, like, I feel like I'm mostly a comic geek. I grew up with comics a lot in my whole life. I started reading them in elementary school. Super into Spider-Man, and Miles Morales right over there, guys. Also color coordinated myself to be kind of Spider-Man-esque with the red, black, and
That's
blue.
what you're going for.
Yeah, red and blue was Peter Parker, and red and black were Miles, you know?
That's crazy that Miles Morales is going to launch the PlayStation 5.
Dude, it's a big deal, man. Like,
Wow.
he's honestly, for all intents and purposes, a cooler Spider-Man Unpopular opinion, I know. But come on, he can like shoot electricity. His Venom Strike, invisibility. Peter Parker can't do that. Just saying.
Nerd.
But
That's
and
right.
Miles is also known to be almost as smart as Peter. So, but Peter Parker is definitely one of the smartest people in the Marvel universe. So, I don't know. It'll be
The
interesting.
movies never portrayed us.
They don't. We have yet to have a movie adaptation of Peter Parker that's accurate. The closest one I think is Tobey Maguire, but that's like a debate for another time.
Yeah.
It's not one of like the
Definitely
20.
There's like 3 Spider-Mans we can argue about right now.
Exactly. I mean, Tobey Maguire, best Peter Parker.
Wow.
Andrew Garfield, maybe a close second for the best Spider-Man.
I kind of
Yeah.
like him
Well,
as Spider. I think he's the better
Tom
Spider-Man.
Holland is a
Tom
good
Holland.
modern combination of both right now,
Okay, good.
but we have to see how he evolves and how he ages into Peter Parker, right? So we'll have to see how that plays out for a bit.
Definitely excited to see his story play out.
He's got two more MCU films. I think he's gonna be heading the Sony Marvel universe as well, so we'll get some pretty good movies out of that. And,
Okay.
yeah.
So what you're saying is out of like the billion Spider-Man movies, none of them have portrayed him correctly.
I think
Based on
they've
the
gotten
comics.
some good Spider-Man portrayals, but not like a really great Peter Parker. Peter Parker, I think, is actually on the topic of nerds versus geek, the epitome of what it means to be a nerd and a geek.
Okay. Are you
just-
nerding out over
Okay.
Spider-Man, or are you geeking out over Spider-Man right
I
now?
feel like I'm geeking out over Spider-Man.
Okay.
So,
There we go.
well, like, here's the definition, right?
Yeah.
So, a nerd is a person seen as overly intellectual, obsessive, and introverted or lacking social skills. Such a person may spend inordinate amounts of time on unpopular, little-known, or non-mainstream activities. So that's pretty much like a nerd. Usually sci-fi, fantasy-based people. So think of somebody that plays like D&D, probably a pretty big
Mhm.
nerd, because they're getting super deep into a game that requires a lot of imagination and obsession over a fantasy world.
Right.
A geek, though, is a slang term that originally used to describe eccentric or non-mainstream people, so that's where the similarity is.
Oh.
But in current use, the word typically means an expert or an enthusiast obsessed with a hobby or an intellectual pursuit.
There we go. Okay.
So someone that's like super into cars would be a car geek, and so
Car Geek just rolls off the tongue weird.
I mean, car nerd doesn't sound that
Okay.
It
good.
doesn't
Not
sound
much
any better.
Yeah. So like, and I feel like someone who's a car nerd would be socially awkward, and most people who are into
Right.
cars are more socializing. They're usually going to car meets, so they are probably not that social.
And it said like an enthusiast about like a non-mainstream topic or something, and cars aren't as non-mainstream, right?
So
I
geek
guess it
seems to be
depends.
more mainstream topics than a nerd, or is
I feel like geek is more. I think geek now is more mainstream topics, and nerd is probably non-mainstream.
okay?
But that's my opinion. That's what I think.
Okay.
Man, they have the definitions now, they're just reversed.
Yeah. Pretty much. I think once upon a time they were pretty much the same thing. But I think where the separation started is like a band geek. They weren't necessarily nerds. They just
They're just kind of obsessed with their craft, kind of.
exactly. And you could still have a popular person who's a band geek, but I don't think a lot of popular people were nerds. So
Yeah, that kind
Right.
of also is where one of the differences come in. It's seems like it's not just what you're into, but also social
how you're
and
into
how you're into it.
yeah, how
Yes,
obsessed you are.
exactly, and how you show that obsession.
True, because some people I think hide that obsession pretty well. Like I feel like I think I'm a nerd, a comic nerd, but I hide it really well. I feel like I'm not as socially inept. And once upon a time, I used to be, guys. I didn't think 20 years ago that I'd be probably in a podcast with some of my friends, just like chilling and talking to a whole audience of people. But here I am, not that socially awkward. Around high school, I kind of lost somewhat, just a little bit.
Just a little.
I mean, it's high school, whatever.
I mean, and I think that's also subject to change because I feel like what we know as nerds and geeks now may not be exactly what it is today for like the newer Generation Z.
True.
I feel like us as millennials, I think most of us Oh, we're all millennials.
I'm technically Gen Z. I'm like, I'm pretty young.
Oh my god, you
I mean,
child.
what year were you born in?
98.
98.
Oh my
yeah.
god.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
You're like right on the line.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like,
It's okay. I'm cool though.
nah. I mean,
Yeah, I'm alright.
But no, I feel like being a nerd nowadays doesn't really. It's not really a bad thing. I feel like it's a cool thing to be a nerd now. Like it's weird if you're not into video games now.
Right.
You
It's
go on social media and it's like everyone's streaming, everyone is video gaming.
Yeah, like back in the day, it was like, oh, the nerd was the weak one who always got bullied, but now it's like, oh, everyone's a nerd. Like, oh,
If you're not into these video games, you're weird.
You're
right,
weird.
yeah,
So-
exactly.
Yeah, what's wrong with you?
Okay.
Why haven't you played?
okay. You know,
If
game,
you're not into
like,
Star Wars, you're weird now.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right,
yes,
exactly.
If you're not
So I
into
guess
Lord of the
that's-
Rings, it's like, who
Hmm.
are you?
Right.
Yeah.
Harry Potter?
Like, you don't know
What?
it?
You don't know
What?
Harry Potter? Come on. No, that's
So I guess, yeah.
It's also
so,
partially attributed to like some toxic fan bases, but for the most part, it's pretty okay.
what would you say is a toxic fan? It's like the most
Oh,
toxic.
Rick and Morty, hands
Oh,
down.
yeah.
Oh yes. Let's
They're
talk
the
about Rick and
worst
Morty,
fan
guys.
base.
We love you guys, by the way. We love you.
Hey, I'm a Rick
I
and
love
Morty
that.
fan.
I love that shit.
Like the show's
It's such a
good, but the
show.
fan base is so bad.
It's,
If
They
you
got
don't have a high
Szechuan
enough,
sauce back. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
That's a powerful revolution in
that's the
itself.
one good thing they did.
Wow.
Now they just bully people on the internet for not being smart.
To be
It's
honest,
sad.
though, I have yet to try the Szechuan sauce.
neither have I.
Yeah.
I
really
have
want
yet
to.
to watch that show.
Really?
Oh, wow.
You're a non-watcher, huh? I mean, I've seen a few episodes, but I will be honest, I haven't seen the whole show. So. People say it's really great.
It is. You can definitely get into it.
It's definitely different.
It's sad that a few bad fans
Yeah.
kind of
Kind of just
put a
ruin
bad stamp on it.
Yeah.
just kind of ruin a show's reputation that way.
I mean, I feel like a lot of like you said, there's a lot of toxic fan bases. I think.
Mm.
But
You can still appreciate the show though.
Yeah, that's true.
what do you think is the most toxic fan base? Since you're part of the Rick and Morty.
I am part of the Rick and Morty fan base. I didn't realize how toxic they were. Really.
I mean,
I'm still not very aware of how toxic they are because I just enjoy the show for the aspects that I enjoy it for. I don't get on any of the forums and chat with anything or
I think that's
have
the first
discussions
job.
about anything with
Watch it,
anyone
enjoy
on
it.
it.
Mind your own
just-
business.
I just love it. I love how they really get at some accurate ideas. Like every time they delve into one specific idea of like physics or something, they go all in on it.
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
and honestly, if you're not smart, I feel like you don't really. A lot of those jokes go right over your head.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot that go over your head, and there's a lot of really like easy ones for a lot of people to get as well.
True.
So it's a real mixed bag. I love it.
If you don't have an IQ of 160, you just don't understand the niche humor of Rick and Morty.
Right.
And cue the fan base.
Yeah.
We're about to get hated on, guys.
Right.
We're just starting. and
It's
we're
okay. I'm
already
the shitter.
terrible.
It's alright.
Right.
Yeah.
But another thing we like to do on the show is debate on different people that are on different categories. So we're gonna, in the next segment of the show, we're gonna have a bunch of characters, fictional or non-fictional, depends, that we'll go over and choose or decide or vote on who we think is a nerd or a geek.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Looking forward to that.
Nerd versus geeks, guys.
that'd be a pretty funny word watch.
Yeah.
Just like books and like your PlayStation controllers. Like
I just imagine a big LARPing battle.
I forgot LARPing was a thing.
That
Oh,
is.
man.
LARPing is more of a jock sport.
It is.
It's a jock activity.
Yeah.
D&D is more of a nerd activity.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's
very,
actually
very
true.
jock.
That's true.
Lightning bolt.
Lightning bolt.
Alright, so we will see you guys in just a minute.
Yeah,
We're
sounds good. We'll be back, guys.
And we're back.
And we're back, guys.
Yeah, I'm back.
Welcome to the You versus Who show again. This is the next part of our show, the next segment, where we are going to determine whether these fictional or non-fictional characters are a geek or a nerd. So we'll start with the first one.
I'm gonna suck at this.
I mean, we've done a pretty good job so far of distinguishing what's what, so I think it'd be not too bad. So, hey, look, there's Dexter. Dexter's the boy.
Dexter.
Yeah.
From the animated cartoon show.
Yeah, he's got the red
Uh-huh.
hair and the glasses, those purple gloves with the 3 fingers. I never understood that. How do they have 4 fingers?
Because it's just easier to draw.
Is one a thumb and
Well,
two
there's
fingers?
I think there's a thumb underneath the hand.
They have 4 fingers and they can't flip you off.
Oh, no,
I don't know if that's true or
I
not.
feel like they could still flip you off with the moon.
Especially with
With
3.
three,
It's
you
very,
definitely
it's
can.
very convenient to do so.
Yeah, for sure.
Just as easily.
I don't know. I think Dexter is most definitely a nerd. He's very socially awkward. His friends, the group of friends that he was around, were all awkward. They played D&D. I remember that episode. That episode was actually pretty awesome. Dexter was like their DM, and he was just like getting upset that his friends were like out doing whatever he had planned for them.
So he had a party of murder hobos. I love DMing for those people.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, it was a good episode. I don't know. I would say Dexter is most definitely a nerd.
I'm inclined to agree. He's just kind of doing his own thing, working on his experiments, just being a nerd.
He's also really intellectual, so
Yeah.
that makes him very nerdy.
I don't really see him.
Kiki?
Yeah, I don't think he has.
Okay.
I don't think he has really any aspects of a geek.
Yeah, I don't think he has any interest that he's really.
Other than
Really
he's a
focused
science
on-
He's a
geek.
science geek,
He's
right?
a science geek.
That's what
Yeah.
I considered him.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
you could more
probably.
attribute that to him being a nerd, I'd say.
Yeah, I would say he's definitely a nerd.
Okay.
I don't know.
It's
Who's
not,
the next
It's not
guy?
like a hobby. It's more just straight up.
That's like what he's doing.
That's his
Ah,
like.
Yeah.
Okay. We have Dexter. Surprise, surprise.
Another
And
Dexter.
we have changed slides. This is the murderous, blood enthusiastic Dexter
I think
from
that
TV show
Dexter.
Dexter.
Yeah. I think he kind of said it right there. He's a blood enthusiast.
He is. He's a blood enthusiast. Is he a blood
Ah,
nerd or is he a blood geek?
he's a blood geek.
I would say he's a blood geek, although he is kind of socially awkward.
True.
Yeah, I think more so because he's a sociopath.
Yeah.
More than that, he's
But
just
he's the good
socially
kind of
awkward.
sociopath.
I don't even know if he feels awkwardness because he's disconnected, right?
This
Yeah.
is a show I've actually, I think, on all the lists. I think it's the one thing I haven't seen.
You haven't seen
Okay.
Serial Killer Dexter.
No.
Okay,
haven't
so
really
he's a
either.
very lovable serial killer. He
Look at that face.
Yeah, how could you not love that
How
face?
could
Right.
you
With
not?
With the blood
It
splatter
is.
and all. Just
So the premise of the whole show is
Colonel
that
Sanders
early
does.
on he discovered that he has a hunger to kill, but he got adopted by a cop who taught him how to kill the right way and only bad people. So he's a serial killer, but like a hero. So it's kind of a weird.
So he's a serial killer who kills serial killers, kind of?
Not necessarily serial killers, but he does target other serial killers. He tends to fight or kill bad guys that have done a lot of bad. So tends to be other serial killers.
it's okay, because if a murderer kills other murderers, there's technically less murderers in the world.
Right.
Yeah.
So
But
he's
it also cancels itself out. It's not really a crime.
So two wrongs make a right. In this
Exactly.
case.
I mean, if it wasn't a crime, I don't know. The whole show, he's trying to like hide that from the cop. Also,
Yeah.
while he is doing all this, he's also a CSI person. So he does all
A bit
the
of a geek.
yeah. He's a geek. He does all the crime scenes and he does the blood
Okay.
splatter. So he's a blood splatter analysis or whatever expert. So not only is he killing people, but he actually works with the cops. So it's
Okay.
it's an interesting show.
Mm.
Yeah.
And his sister is awesome. His sister on the show is played by what's her face? I don't even remember. She's
Been in a few things.
What is her face?
She's been in a few things. In a dozen things.
Yeah, she's famous, whatever.
she's a
Yeah.
B-list celebrity. Not that important. I don't know. She's great. She's awesome.
Probably know when we see her face, right?
But she's pretty cool.
We'll
I
know
don't
her when we see her.
Definitely a blood geek though. I would say.
Yeah, let's go with Dexter's a geek.
Geek.
Ding.
We got our lovable Jimmy Neutron ice cream swirled. I want to say nerd because he's very sciencey.
So I think on the same scope as Dexter, where he's super enthusiastic
Which
about
Dexter?
science. The first Dexter.
Okay.
Dexter's the
Yeah.
Why did we do this?
The
This is a bad
cartoon
idea.
Where he's like, I think he's super into science, but he's not socially awkward. He has a lot of friends that are
True.
popular and not popular.
I mean, I don't know. The cool kid always just kind of like gives him crap in the show. Like Nick, I think was his name.
Oh, but there's always that one guy. You know?
Is that the guy with the hair?
Yeah, with
the
the
He's Eric,
the pretty one.
but
and the lollipop.
the lollipop.
Hey,
Yeah.
yeah.
You should play cosplay as him one day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Next Halloween.
Yeah, there we go.
We'll do like a Jimmy Neutron cosplay. But I think he's actually more of a geek.
Mm.
I think Jimmy Neutron's a geek.
I think so.
When I think of Jimmy Neutron, one of the things I remember is he had an argument with, I think it was Cindy, because he didn't understand capris.
Oh yeah, was it the pants episode with the jeans?
Maybe.
I think it
and
could
it
have
was
been.
like, I don't understand because they're not long enough to be pants, but not short enough to be shorts, and all they do is show your ankles. I don't understand the purpose. So
Ankles
I
are kinky.
don't know. That was almost nerdy in a way how he analyzed it, but it was almost geeky in a way.
That he chose to obsess over that detail, I suppose.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, he does have that brain blast, so.
Yes.
Gotta blast.
Gotta blast. Also, what's his dog's name? The robot dog? Godard?
No, I forget.
It's like something.
It's a weird name.
I think it's like Godard or something.
Goddard?
We're offending everybody right now.
I know, we're terrible guys. We are not the biggest nerds. Or
Yeah, I didn't do my research. I'm proud to admit it.
It's been too long since I've seen Jimmy Neutron.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
It's up there with SpongeBob, but SpongeBob is still awesome.
Right.
Yeah, I'll still watch SpongeBob.
Every day of the week,
Oh.
man.
All I remember was
I'm ready.
Carl's glowing butt. Remember that episode?
I
Oh,
like Carl's
Butt baby.
llamas.
yeah.
Like his obsession with llamas. Well, now on that topic, is Carl a geek or a nerd?
He'd be like geek.
Llama geek.
But he's socially awkward.
That's true. He is.
And
a
He's just,
llamas-
I think he's just socially awkward. I don't think that makes him a nerd.
I mean, he wasn't really that smart either.
No, because he's very into the one thing.
The llamas.
And llamas are very non-mainstream, like off.
Oh yeah.
So
I mean, nowadays
Now
though,
they're very
now
mainstream.
they're very mainstream. People are super into llamas.
Really?
They got like the llama keychains, the
Oh,
shirts.
yeah.
Oh.
They got like the memes and stuff.
Yeah, we can say Carl was ahead of his time because he was always into Jimmy's mom for some reason.
Yeah,
Oh.
that too.
Yeah.
And then Jimmy's dad was also a very weird guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
with the
Shane,
ducks.
we can't forget Shane.
Sheen.
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 Yeah,
Yes.
fake fan.
Fake fan, super fake fan. Did he have his own show?
He did. It wasn't good.
It was not great. That's why no one watched it.
Controversial opinion alert.
which is why I just found that out right now.
You just learned about Sheen's
Yeah.
planet?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's. I don't know why they did it.
Was it like he was on a different planet and
Yeah,
had
like-
aliens, like friends?
Something I honestly couldn't watch it. It was just so disjointed and disconnected from what Jimmy Neutron was.
They're just trying to milk that cash cow. That was Jimmy Neutron.
They
And
should have
his-
gone with Carl. See if they would have just done a Carl
Yeah.
and Llama
And his
show.
butt baby.
And his butt baby.
Glowing booty.
Then we would, maybe it would still be going strong today.
True that.
I don't know. It's definitely a geek for me in my book, but
I'm gonna stick with nerd just because he's all into all the science and whatnot. But that's just me.
Yeah.
same like
Jimbo's geek.
Who's the next one?
Let's see.
Ooh.
Wow.
Hello.
She is. Her eyes are piercing my soul right now. Hermione Granger from Harry Potter.
Harry Potter.
The
How do you say that? Say it.
Harry Potter. Harry Potter.
Is it
Harry
Wingardium
Harry.
Leviosa or Leviosa?
Wingardium Leviosa. Leviosa.
Leviosa. I don't know what the hell she said.
Leviosa?
Anyway.
Yeah.
Swish and flick.
Swish and
Right.
flick.
Bend
That-
and snap. Swish and flick.
She got that from. She watched that movie. We
Yeah,
all know
exactly.
Yeah.
It's canon.
that. Isn't that Legally Blonde?
Yeah, it's
Ben?
canon. Hermione's favorite movie.
Yes.
She's like a bookworm.
Huge bookworm.
Very. Oh, was she like super into magic, or is it she just wanted to perfect her craft so much?
I think
she-
for
she
her,
was super
because she
into
was Muggle born, didn't grow up in a family of wizards. For her, it was something so new and different, and she was also very like academic, and always had good grades. Seems like one of the people that always had good grades growing up. So, in a way, I would almost say nerd because she just wants to perfect that. Just be perfect at everything.
It's true.
I
think-
agree.
I like the idea of her being a nerd. And
Yeah.
so Muggle-born, I mean, so she was born from like normal humans, non-magical humans.
Yes.
Half.
Wasn't
No, she doesn't have her
I don't
parents
think
are
she was half.
dentists.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
Okay.
So how does one Muggle-born gain magical powers?
It's been a while since I read book 1, Bob, so can't tell you.
So right now I'm actually going through another podcast that does a reading for the Harry Potter series. And you should tune in because the first episode has Daniel Radcliffe reading it off, so pretty interesting. Harry Potter reading Harry Potter is probably the best thing I've ever.
That's interesting. I thought he was trying to distance himself from the whole Harry Potter scene.
Well, no, I know right now. J.K. Rowling's going through a lot of scrutiny because
Right.
She keeps tweeting.
he just needs to get off the tweets
Just
What's that?
just JK Rowling, get off Twitter. It's
Yeah.
okay.
You're-
Stop trying to modify your story. We all know what happened.
You
You
know
made
what?
a lot of money. Just stay quiet.
You know what? I think you're all just hating because she's dropping the truth, and y'all ain't ready for the truth. So
Oh
Do you
my
know what
God.
the truth is that she's dropping?
I've seen a couple, and you know
It's
what?
not the truth.
You know what?
We got to be part of the appreciate everything culture.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
Dropping the truth.
I don't know. Hermione though.
She's
the
definitely a
character,
huge
is
nerd.
Definitely a nerd.
She always wants to strive to try and prove that she belongs and that
Yeah.
she's the best. She can be the best at what she does.
Yeah, that seems to be another difference between nerd and geek. Like, nerd is trying to perfect a craft when a geek is just enthusiastic about it
True.
and enjoy it. So it's almost like leisure versus striving for perfection.
Yeah, maybe that's the And she definitely works hard. She becomes one of the best wizards, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like in the future. So I don't know. I'd say she's a nerd.
Yeah, and all she got was a Weasley out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, don't knock the Weasleys until you try them. They're awesome people. This guy's hilarious.
Alright, so we have Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory.
This one's an interesting one.
Yes, right now we have a picture of him up on our screen with his nose in his shirt spraying what looks to be Lysol.
Is
Wow.
he a germaphobe, right?
I think he
I
is.
think
No.
that's what it is.
He's a forward thinker. Coronavirus.
Oh,
Coronavirus.
He already. He's on it
Time.
already.
And we're demonetized.
I don't know how.
We're
I don't know how Lysol is supposed to protect you against corona, but
Hey,
maybe the shirt was a little
Is
bit.
that or is he trying to get rid of a bad smell?
our president did say
Possibly
It
a
could be
smell.
both.
check Lysol
Possibly a
and
smell.
get rid of the coronavirus.
Alright, we're not going to get into that, but
No.
I would say Sheldon's probably a huge nerd. Well, actually, I don't know. He's kind of both, I think. Because he's
He's,
enthusiastic, but like...
I think he's strong in both.
I think he's a strong candidate for both.
Mhm.
He's socially awkward for sure.
Mm-hmm.
He pushes almost everyone away based off of that fact, but somehow he still keeps the same circle of friends. So I guess he's a lovable nerd.
He's kind of one of those hybrid kind of personalities.
I'd say I relate to Sheldon quite a bit myself. I'd say I'm a pretty healthy hybrid. Like those hybrid cars, you know, gas, electric. I run on both. Just give me either one. I'm juiced up.
You
I
know,
think he's a good hybrid.
another thinking of how I can be a geek or nerd, whichever one you want to call it, is when I heard hybrid, I did not think of hybrid cars. I thought of hybrids from the Vampire Diaries, which
Oh my gosh.
which are werewolf vampires.
That's a whole different.
I always
topic
forget
right
that.
there.
Whole different topic.
Let's see.
Yeah, Sheldon can be both.
Ooh, this is Belle. Belle from Beauty and the Beast, right?
Interesting pick for this show.
She's definitely gorgeous. I don't know if she's a nerd in that regard. I don't think she was ever socially awkward, but she is a book geek.
Mhm.
She's just like Hermione in that aspect. She's super into books.
True. In the picture, she has.
But the difference
Gorgeous
with her
dress.
is that she's really into reading, but she's not trying to. She does it more for leisure,
She doesn't work for leisure for sure.
not to, you know.
She's very enthusiastic. About
Yes.
books. I mean, the movie starts off with her getting books. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Just a passion for it.
she has a strong passion.
mean, She's dressed to go out, right? But she's got a book right under her arm.
for it.
It's
Yeah.
like, this is me.
In case she needs to school someone while she's out.
Well,
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, she's pretty witty and she's quick on her quick thinking.
She's pretty and witty.
She's pretty.
And we all something over here.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you which princess is another one. What name? Yeah, I couldn't tell you that was Belle. I thought that might be Cinderella. Or a lot of the Disney princesses look the same to me, but that's just me.
You suffer from Disney princess
I
face
do.
blindness.
I was not raised on Disney.
On Disney? On
Disney.
Is that how you say it down under?
Sure, we'll go with that.
Disney? I mean, do you not know any of the Disney princesses?
From the looks, no.
Yeah, they're a damn a dozen.
I mean, there are a dozen, right? I'm just kidding. I mean,
Can you name-
Mulan, you got Cinderella.
I
Ariel.
probably could not tell you which one was which.
The mermaid? You know the mermaid, right?
Yeah, but
she's separate
Ariel?
from all the other ones.
If-
She's got a
if
fin.
she had her tail out, I would know that, you know. But I think there's parts of the movie where she does not. She has legs, right?
Well,
in parts
of
it.
some parts.
So during that, if there was a picture, I would not be able to tell.
I would
which
say
one.
with her with legs, she does awfully look like Cinderella, just with red hair.
Okay.
She has like.
I kind of disagree.
So I'm,
They all just have poofy dresses and pretty faces.
I mean,
True.
That's all it takes to be a Disney princess. Watch out, I'm gonna be the next one.
I guess I'm not a Disney geek.
You are not a Disney.
Not a Disney geek.
Yeah, unlike my husband, who is the biggest Disney geek.
He's obsessed with Lion King.
Always plays Disney
Yes.
music.
All the
Right.
time. Disney
All the
music.
The amount of times I've heard Under the Sea.
Under the sea. Who we
Alright.
got next? Oh.
Whoa. Hello.
You know who this is?
I do not know the name. I would say Rick from Rick and Morty.
That is
Close.
completely
This is
inaccurate.
close.
It's the movie
That's
version.
Really
of
good
Rick.
animation.
The live action.
Yeah.
The live action Rick and Morty.
Yeah, live action Rick from
Oh.
Back to the Future.
So here we got
Does he have
Doc.
Doc.
We got Doc.
Does he have a last name?
Or first name?
I don't know what
I
I
think
think it's
Doc
just
is-
Doc,
yeah.
honestly.
I
From
haven't seen it for a long time.
Yeah.
Since my high school physics class, we watched it for movie day.
Movie Day. Yeah.
Back
It's a
to the
good
Future.
I haven't really watched it much either. Definitely from our previous generation. It's a little bit older, but
It's a good movie, though.
it's a
a
good
classic.
movie from what I remember. Maybe it's a good idea that we all watch it one
If we
time.
watch it again, we
Right.
might not appreciate it as much.
As much. I mean, the concept is what one of the time. It's time traveling.
Yeah, with the what was
Yes.
the car? The DeLorean.
The
Yeah.
DeLorean.
The DeLorean.
Yeah. I would say the Doc is probably a geek. Very enthusiastic about what is it? Physics. He's a physicist or something like that.
Yeah.
You have to be pretty obsessed to figure out how to make time travel in the 80s.
Yeah, for
Wow.
sure. It takes a lot of forward thinking. He's definitely ahead of his time.
Okay.
Oh, I get it.
Oh, that
Yeah.
hit me.
It's a
That hit
time
me
travel
late.
joke.
Oh,
Oh my gosh.
yes, that's how we are all geeks.
But
So,
I don't know. I would almost say nerd.
you think he's a nerd?
Yeah.
I don't know. You guys tell
Definitely
us,
socially
is Doc
awkward.
from Back to the Future a
Yeah.
nerd or a geek, guys? Let us know.
yes, Doc
Because maybe we're just not that well in tune.
in the film.
We're not that forward thinking.
We're not
I think he's a
that
geek.
well- I think he's a geek. But you guys let us know. What do you guys think? Is he a geek or a nerd? Ooh.
Ooh, one of my favorites.
Yes.
Okay, you're gonna have to forgive me. I know the character. I forget his name.
Steve Urkel.
Steve
Urkel.
Urkel.
Uncle.
Yeah, like I watched the show a long time ago.
What show is this?
Family,
Family
Matters.
Matters.
Yes.
Family Matters. Okay.
He's like the weird, annoying neighbor kid that comes over and just, is
Just kinda
weird and
does stuff.
annoying.
He's very socially awkward.
So one of the best characters in the show, I'm assuming.
he
Yeah.
is the breakout
Okay.
star of the show.
Yes.
There we go.
When you think of Family Matters, immediately you think of Steve Urkel. In
That's
fact, I got mocked for most of my life for being named Steven. So
Aha.
Steve Urkel, I always got called Steve Urkel during school. So
You should
You should definitely dress up.
Exactly.
I
Yes.
mean, all you're missing is the suspenders right
I
now.
mean,
Yeah.
I almost wore suspenders today, guys. I almost did. Especially rainbow ones. I do own a pair.
And those glasses. Those glasses are
I would
popping.
need to upgrade my glasses.
Yes,
Yes.
you do. You get them.
I mean, Jaleel White had quite the glow up.
He did. He went from nerd to jock real quick.
Yes.
Super.
I'm not familiar.
Is anyone good at doing doing the "Did I do that" impression? Because I cannot do that. voice.
Did I do that?
That was a double impression
Ah,
right
okay.
there.
Yes.
It was like actually like in sync, so that was pretty wild too.
It was
I
pretty
would
insane, I'd
almost say that he's a nerd because just how socially.
say. And he was
awkward
an intellectual, right?
And he was
smart.
very intellectual. One of the episodes that really stood out to me was when he got his first car,
Mhm.
and it's this car where you have to open it from the front and get in. And
That's great.
his neighbor's a cop, and he's like, "There's no speedometer in this car." And he goes, "Oh, it's okay. My uncle installed a chalkboard so you can write down how fast you think you're going."
Nice.
That's great.
I
watched
think
the
one of the
episode.
ones that stood out to me. I think there was one where he like cloned himself or made himself like a different version.
Like
So-
Cool Steve?
Cool Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like a good contrast for a nerd and a cool person, you know. Because everyone loved Cool Steve.
That's
and
right. Nerds aren't cool. We're just bullying nerds on this show.
Yeah.
We're not even nerds, guys.
Yeah, give me
Full
your like,
disclosure.
comments, and subscribes, nerds.
Yeah, that
Don't
seems to be a
subscribe
thing
to
with
Bean
like
Rock.
some of the stereotypes of nerds and geeks on television is that they seem to get bullied.
Mm.
They usually do, but I wonder if we'll have like that shift in media where like they'll portray nerds in a different light. You know what I mean? Like that. Get rid of that stereotype. no one bullies nerds anymore. We all know this. Come on, guys.
I think it is changing a bit now.
Isn't there like some
It is,
movie that's
'cause-
Revenge of the Nerds or called something like that?
Yeah,
I
like an
think
old
so.
movie,
I think there was multiple or like
Was
there
there?
were sequels to that. I think. Well, I feel like I remember Revenge of the Nerds 3 or seeing something. About
Is like
Yeah.
one of those Sharknado things, like the first movie just generated a bunch of like extra movies.
I feel like
Maybe.
I feel like
I
that's
feel like
what
it's
a lot of sequels do.
I don't think it's a B movie, right?
It's
I
like
feel
so.
like it is.
Probably.
It's an older
I
one.
think it's still a good one though. I don't know.
I
I'd
don't
have to
think I've
watch
seen
it.
it. Yeah, I don't think I've seen either.
I feel like I've seen maybe a sequel of it.
I don't know. It also almost sounds like it could be like an inappropriate movie, but
Guys, what if it's like one of those things where it's like a false memory, where we think we know it's a thing, but it's not even actually a thing.
Yeah, it's
like,
definitely a thing.
Vividly remember.
do you know
the
what that's
poster.
called?
like the Bernstein Bear
It's
things.
called the Mandela Effect.
Yes, I've heard and read about this.
Yes,
It's like the
Mandela.
Bernstein Bears, right?
Yes.
Where the different spellings, people remember it being spelled one way, but it never was spelled that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like different things like that. I think that's cool though.
Or
Mhm.
that line in Star Wars where we think it says, Luke, I am your father, but he really says, no, I am your father.
Yeah,
Mm.
like yeah, that's a really popular one because
Mhm.
everyone still tries to say that. to
Right.
this day.
Yeah.
Ooh, what?
I
My
am
favorites.
Iron Man.
So we got Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, here.
Ooh.
I'm gonna say he's a pretty big nerd because he's really into robotics and his sciencey craft.
But he's very charismatic.
Yeah,
This guy.
but again, nerd doesn't have to be socially awkward. He's very intellectual.
Yeah, he's very charismatic, but also doesn't really like people.
Yeah,
Doesn't
he,
really
he,
like
he has a,
True.
like he's like charismatic when he needs to be, but when he doesn't need to be, he's just like, nope, leave me alone. I'm gonna be in my cave creating suits.
He does have his
Jobs.
quirk where, I don't know if it was in the comics, but portrayed in the movie, where he doesn't like when people hand things to him. And
So, like in the comics, he's actually two things. In the comics, he's probably one of the smartest people in the Marvel universe. But also, he's one of the hated characters of comics. A lot of people don't like him because he's very abusive. He was an alcoholic. That's something that didn't happen in the movies, but we all know that Robert Downey Jr. suffered from alcoholism, and so just like having that trait just makes RDJ like that much more like Tony Stark than we realize.
Right.
But yeah,
Did
he's
he
actually
pick
not.
up that habit just for the character?
Well, no, because RDJ got sober before he started Tony Stark.
Oh, okay,
Like,
okay.
This Tony Stark was like his resurgence for his career.
Yes.
Because for a while there, his career was like tanking. And so,
I see.
Yeah, 'cause he- wow.
I was
But-
gonna say that's another level of method acting, but never mind.
no.
Never mind, it's
He
like a
definitely
huge
sobered up. But
comeback
Tony
story.
Stark in the comics, definitely not a well-liked person.
Mhm.
And
sad.
I mean, he definitely is a character that has a lot of flaws, but really redeemed himself.
in the movie,
And then the
In the
cinematic
movies.
universe,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
That's
he's done very little of redemption in the comics, but I mean, he's still a good character. He's a hero. He tries his best, but he's a good symbol of what's not perfect in humans. You know, he's a hero, but they still try.
But he's still human.
He's still human.
I like that.
Mhm.
I think all heroes need to have some type of humanizing flaw
Yeah,
for me to
Mhm.
really empathize and sympathize with their problems.
people can relate to him for sure.
And sometimes, like, his flaw is, like, his obsession to keep pushing his craft, pushing people away from him.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, nerd. Along with what we're thinking is nerd someone that strives for perfection, or is it someone that just has a hobby, which seems like something we keep seeing correspond in the definitions we're giving to all these different characters.
Yeah, I think, yeah. It's just like with any label, I feel like it kind of correlates differently to each person.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely different. I think Tony Stark is probably a science geek. I think he's a good hybrid of both. He specializes more in like robotics and engineering. So like, he's a geek in that sense. I think he's a nerd in the aspect of like not really good with communication. Very like deep delved into his craft. So like once he starts something, it's really hard to get him off of that project. You know, he's very committed to whatever he's into. So I don't know. He's probably one of those characters that's also a good hybrid of both. I would say.
Yeah, I personally think he leans more towards the nerd side, but
Yeah, I can see that.
Let's see the last person.
Ooh.
The last person. Who is it?
Can we try and do that pose?
I don't know that any person can like
Cosplay, guys.
Yeah, I do my stretches. It's not that good.
I don't think anyone
With
can
them
stretch
fingers.
that
So who we have on screen is Mr. Fantastic.
This is fantastic.
well. AKA
Yes.
Reed Richards.
Elastic fantastic.
R squared.
He's very elastic. He is probably, arguably, one of the smartest people in the Marvel universe. His son, or his daughter, sorry, is the next person in line to maybe take over that reign. The only other person that holds up to him in intellectual aspect would be Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom is also a very smart comic book character. So I would say Reed Richards is definitely a nerd. I don't think anything about him screams geek.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
He's very obsessed in everything. There's also a storyline where he pushes away his whole family he wants to solve the equation of what is it? It was something like how to save the world hunger, you know, and so or how to cure, fix world hunger, or whatever. And so when he did that, he pushed everyone away. He was definitely super obsessed with what he was into. I'd say Reed Richards is definitely a nerd all the way. I don't know.
I guess by the silence, we kind of mostly agree that Reed Richards is a nerd.
Yeah.
I don't see much geek
No,
in him.
I'm not very familiar with the character, so
Looks
I'm
like
staying quiet on this one.
you might have to watch the Fantastic Four or read some comics.
Yeah.
Don't watch the
it.
newer Fantastic Four. Watch the
Or-
older one.
I have to watch it again,
Or any
because
of them.
I think I have seen it.
Well, even the old one's not that great. but
It's still better than the new one.
Yeah.
I mean, the old ones, they have Captain America, so.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll watch them both just to be safe.
It does actually have Captain America in it, but
Yeah.
Hey, that's all the characters we picked out.
that is
Yeah.
all the characters we have, guys. That concludes this segment of the show.
Geek or nerd?
Geek or nerd? I don't know. I'd say we probably have a pretty good, deeper understanding of
Mm-hmm.
what it means to be either or now.
Yeah, and there's also more of a gray area and not really a harsh line in between the two.
Right.
Let's see.
They're hybrids. Too.
Some of the characters are very charismatic, like Tony Stark and such, so
Mm-hmm.
not as clear cut.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, now that we have a better understanding, what do you guys classify yourselves now? What do you guys think you classify yourselves?
Huge geek. I love my games.
Yeah. Still a gamer geek?
Yeah, still gamer geek.
Yeah.
Geek.
What makes you a geek?
Still geek. Still messing or geek.
Don't you play games?
I do play video games as well.
Yeah, he's a gamer.
What do you play?
Many strategy games.
So like Civ 6 right now?
Civ 6, Civ
Shout out
5.
to Eric playing Civ 6. Anybody who wants to play with him, just
Yeah.
hit him up.
Stellaris, FTL. I don't really know if that's strategy, but
I mean, a little.
XCOM. It's a really good one.
Ooh, that's a really good game. XCOM 2. Love the.
Mountain Blade Bannerlord. That's a good one.
I play just mostly like RPGs and
Alright. I love
Rocket
the Colonel
League.
Sanders.
Colonel Sanders.
I agree.
Ooh,
best one ever. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
What about you, Sarah? Do you still think you're a geek or?
Again, I feel like I'm kind of the hybrid, like geek in a lot of the things I'm passionate about, but nerd as there's some subjects that I really specialize in and like have knowledge about. But then geek that there are other hobbies that I really have just enthused about. And
What about you, Benji?
I think my terms were mixed up earlier, so
Now that you
I
have
think-
that fixed.
Yeah, you New
I
Zealand
am
terms.
more of a nerd, but I definitely geek out. There's some video games I'm really into. And TV shows, I definitely love studying film as well. A lot of shows, but I'm very picky about them, so I'm not very general. But some just geek out all day.
I love geeking out about things. What do you guys think I am? Like, I don't know if I think I know what I am. I kind of want to hear what you guys think I am.
I would lean more towards the geek. It's kind of more like middle ground. But
yeah, middle ground with a heading over more towards the geek side.
Yeah.
Because you have such an intense in-depth knowledge of like the comic books and all the lore behind pretty much all superheroes.
Yeah.
Not all
Doesn't matter.
superhero guys. Just
Doesn't matter
some
what
of them.
universe. I'm not gonna limit to universe, but you know.
Different
lot.
publishers, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm super into DC, Marvel, I've delved into Image, Dark Horse, a little bit from each publisher. Play a lot of card games. I play Magic the Gathering, D&D. I feel like I'm a pretty healthy balance of both. I'm definitely a nerd. I just geek out about a lot of things. A lot of things. And so...
Yeah, you kind of have to be a nerd to get into D&D, to, like, really... Like, nerd, geek... I really... Again, I still don't quite understand the difference in terms all the time, but it takes a lot of in-depth knowledge to really get into D&D.
Don't you play D&D as well?
Oh, yeah. I used to DM a couple games.
Yeah, definitely a nerd in that aspect for sure. But tell us what you guys think. We'd love to hear some of you guys' feedback. We'll be on multiple social media platforms: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff. We'll be on YouTube. This first time around, we'll probably just be audio based only. So catch us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere where you listen to your podcast at. So.
Like, comment, and subscribe.
Oh gosh. And then also visit us on our website, uversus2.com. We own that domain. Our website should be live here pretty soon. On there you can find the poll. Tell us, do you think you're a nerd or you're a geek? Let's figure out if we have a lot of nerds out there or a lot of geeks. And then also give us some comments. Let us know what you geek out about. Tell us some subjects that you guys would like to hear on the show as well. Our next episode is going to be Marvel vs. DC, so that'll be super exciting. We'll have all the hosts here give us what they think is a Marvel character and what they think is a DC character. A lot of people here don't know.
I think it depends on the publisher.
Depends on the publisher. I mean, there are certain characters that are on both.
This is true.
Like, what's his face? Shazam, who was Captain Marvel originally on DC. And because Marvel owns Marvel, and we have a Captain Marvel there, we have to change his name.
Yeah, this is next episode.
Next week we'll get right into this, and this will be...
It'll be interesting to see what factors into what people like childhood and stuff
I think
like
I'll
that.
learn a lot next time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
You're going to get schooled on some comic books.
Definitely, I need to get schooled.
So thank you guys for tuning in to You Versus Who. Hopefully you guys come watch us next time. Join in on the conversation. And we'll see you guys next time. I'm your host, Steven. They call me Sven.
I'm Benji the Kiwi.
Bman.
America31, how are you doing?
And I'm Sarah.
And that's it for today's episode, guys. We'll catch you guys all later.
Good night, mate.
Shazam.